The blast doors buckled inward with a screech that made every soldier in the command center flinch. Commander Vexith watched her tactical display fragment into static as something tore through their defensive grid like it was made of paper. 3 orbital platforms gone. The 4th flickering. Her claws dug into the console edge. Shield generators at 18%. Her second reported, voice steady despite the tremor in his mandibles. Redirect power from life support sectors 9 through 14. Vexitha's eyes never left the viewport where enemy vessels swarmed like insects. The Krell Dominion had been planning this assault for months. Intelligence said they'd bring maybe 40 ships. She counted at least 200. The entire station shuddered. Somewhere below, hull plating screamed as it separated from the superstructure. They had maybe an hour before critical systems failed. Maybe less. Commander, we're receiving a priority transmission from the civilian shelter on Deck 23. I don't have time for, ma'am, they say there's a human down there. A child. Vexitha's head snapped around. What? Civilian records show a Terran family relocated here 6 months ago. Mining contract. The parents didn't make it to the shelter. Just the kid. Her tactical mind calculated instantly. 1 human child shouldn't matter against 200 warships and 12,000 station residents. But her gut said something different. Humans were rare out here in the outer spiral. Most species gave them wide berth after the Proxima incident. Even the Krell, who feared nothing, had learned to be cautious. What's the child doing? According to the shelter supervisor, he's trying to access the station's mainframe. Says he can help. Another impact. The lights flickered and died, emergency systems casting everything in red. Vexith made her decision in the darkness. I'm going down there. Commander, you can't abandon your post during. Lieutenant Krall has command. If I'm not back in 20 minutes, execute Evacuation Protocol 7. She was already moving toward the lift. Ma'am, Protocol 7 leaves the civilian shelters until last. If you're going to, I know what it does, Lieutenant. The lift descended through chaos. Vexith could hear the station dying around her, metal groaning like a wounded animal. She'd served 40 years in the Royal Guard. Seen colony worlds burn. Watched fleets shatter against impossible odds. This was different. This felt like an ending. The shelter door was reinforced durasteel, built to withstand direct strikes. Inside, 300 civilians huddled in groups while shelter staff tried to maintain order. Vexith spotted the supervisor immediately, a nervous Vendorian whose scales had gone pale with stress. Where? The supervisor pointed toward the back corner where a small figure sat cross-legged in front of an access terminal. The human child couldn't have been more than 8 standard years old. Dark hair. Dirt on his face. Eyes that held too much understanding for someone so young. Vexith approached slowly, her boots silent on the deck plating. The boy didn't look up. They told me humans aren't allowed to touch our systems, she said quietly. Your systems are about to fail. His voice was steady, fingers moving across the holographic interface with practiced precision. Hull breach in Section 47 will cascade in 11 minutes. Your shield generators are drawing power from the wrong auxiliary grid. And your point defense network is targeting based on mass readings, which is why you're wasting ammunition on decoy drones while the real missiles slip through. Vexith felt her blood chill. How do you know that? I can see it. He gestured at the terminal. Your network architecture is really basic. No offense. This is a military-grade secured system. Yeah. The boy finally looked up at her. His eyes were brown, almost black in the red emergency lighting. I know. Who taught you to bypass military encryption? Nobody taught me. I just understand how systems work. He turned back to the screen. Are you going to arrest me or can I try to save your station? Another impact rattled the shelter. Someone screamed. Parents pulled their children closer. Vexith had seconds to decide. What's your name? Marcus Chin. How old are you, Marcus? 8 and 4 months. And you think you can fix our defensive grid? No. Marcus's fingers flew across the interface. Your defensive grid is trash. But I can maybe buy you enough time to evacuate everyone if you stop asking questions and let me work. Vexitha's hand moved to her sidearm, then stopped. She'd commanded troops through 17 major engagements. Lost people she loved. Made decisions that haunted her in the dark hours before dawn. This moment felt bigger than all of them. Lieutenant Krall, this is Commander Vexith. I need you to run a combat scan. Her comm crackled. Ma'am, we're in the middle of, now, Lieutenant. Full spectrum. Focus on the civilian shelter, Deck 23. I need to know what we're dealing with. 30 seconds of silence. Then, Krall's voice came back, different now. Careful. Commander, I'm showing one human juvenile. Standard biosigns. But there's something else. The system is flagging a designation I've never seen before. What designation? It says Founder Level Access, ma'am. The kind of clearance that's supposed to be extinct. The shelter went quiet. Every adult who understood what that meant had gone absolutely still. Vexith looked down at the boy who'd just rewritten 3 centuries of assumptions about human classification protocols. Marcus, she said softly, I'm going to need you to explain exactly who you are. Marcus didn't stop typing. The holographic display in front of him showed cascading system failures, red warnings multiplying faster than Vexith could count them. His small fingers moved with absolute certainty, diving through code architecture that should have required security clearances he couldn't possibly possess. I'm nobody, he said. Just a kid whose parents took a mining contract in the wrong star system at the wrong time. This skin says you're founder level? Vexith crouched beside him, careful to keep her voice neutral. Around them, the shelter had gone silent. People were listening. That designation hasn't been active since the first contact wars. Since humans decided to classify their own people by threat potential after what happened at Proxima. I know what happened at Proxima. Marcus's jaw tightened. Everybody knows. One human went crazy and killed 40,000 people before they stopped him. After that, Earth started scanning every human who left the solar system. 99.9% come back baseline. Safe. Normal. And the others? The others get flagged. Levels 1 through 4 depending on what kind of abilities they show. Enhanced pattern recognition. Tactical prediction. Things that make them useful but dangerous. He paused, highlighted a subsystem, rerouted power with 3 quick gestures. Founder level is supposed to be theoretical. The kind of human that could break civilizations if they wanted to. Earth denies anyone's ever tested that high. Yet here you are. Yet here I am. Marcus finally stopped typing and looked at her directly. My parents knew. They were trying to hide me out here where nobody would skin me. Where I could just be normal. Then, the Krell showed up and normal stopped being. Your shelter supervisor tried to stop me, but she's not good at encryption. He pulled up a new interface, this one showing the battle outside. You've got 6 Krell heavy cruisers concentrating fire on your shield generators. Once those drop, they'll board the station. Standard doctrine. They want the raw materials intact. I'm aware of Krell tactics. Then you know you can't win. I know we can't fight. Vexith watched his hands move. But we might be able to run. If your theoretical combat scan is accurate, if you really are what the system says you are, can you get these people out? Marcus bit his lip. For the first time, he looked like the child he was. Maybe. But you're not going to like how. Try me. Your station has industrial fabrication systems. Big ones for processing ore and building ship components. They have power reserves you're not tapping because they're on an isolated grid. Those systems take hours to redirect. We don't have hours. I can do it in 4 minutes if you authorize emergency override protocol. That protocol requires command-level clearance and biometric confirmation from someone with founder-level access. Marcus met her eyes. That's why I need you to officially recognize what I am. Once you do that, the system will let me touch anything on this station. Vexith felt the weight of the decision crushing down on her. Recognizing a founder-level human meant acknowledging that one child had more systemic authority than her entire command structure. It meant trusting him with the lives of everyone aboard. It also meant painting a target on his back that would follow him for the rest of his life. If I do this, if I formally acknowledge your designation, Earth will know within hours. Every intelligence service in known space will know. You'll never be anonymous again. I know. They'll study you. Use you. Possibly lock you away if they decide you're too dangerous. I know that too. Marcus's voice was quiet but steady. But 300 people are going to die in this shelter if we do nothing. 12,000 on the whole station. My parents came out here to give me a normal life. They died trying to protect me. I think they'd understand why I can't let everyone else die too. Another massive impact. The shelter's reinforced walls buckled slightly. Emergency klaxons screamed. Someone was crying. Vexith made her choice. Computer, this is Commander Vexith, authorization code VEX77 Omega Black. Requesting formal classification scan of human juvenile Marcus Chin, currently located in Civilian Shelter 23, Deck 23. The terminal chimed. A new interface materialized, this one marked with symbols that predated the current government by centuries. Old human Federation markers from before the diaspora, before humans had learned to fear their own potential. Scanning. Biometric analysis complete. Cognitive pattern mapping complete. Authorization potential assessed. The pause lasted 3 heartbeats. Classification confirmed. Subject Marcus Chin, age 8 standard years, for months. Designation founder level granted. Full emergency access authorization transferred. Warning, this designation carries permanent status under Accord law. All present parties are bound by witness protocols. Around the shelter, people began to understand what they just witnessed. A Vendrian mother covered her daughter's eyes, as if protecting her from seeing something forbidden. An elderly Kalesh merchant made a warding gesture. The shelter supervisor backed away slowly. Marcus pulled up the fabrication grid. His clearance now absolute, he dove into systems that should have required a team of engineers. Vexith watched him work and understood why Earth had tried so hard to hide people like him. He wasn't just smart. He understood the station's architecture the way most people understood their own bodies. Intuitive. Effortless. He saw connections and possibilities that shouldn't have been visible. Got it. Marcus highlighted 6 different power conduits. Your fabrication systems can generate enough directed electromagnetic interference to scramble Krell targeting solutions for about 90 seconds. It'll burn out half your industrial capacity, but you'll have a window. 90 seconds isn't enough time to evacuate. It's enough time for your remaining orbital platforms to recalibrate and hit the Krell command ship's communications array. I can feed them the exact targeting solution. Once their command structure fragments, you'll have maybe 10 minutes of confusion. That's your evacuation window. Vexith pulled up her command channel. Lieutenant Krall, prepare to execute firing solution on the Krell command vessel. Coordinates incoming. Ma'am, we've been trying to hit that ship for 20 minutes. Their point defenses too, they're receiving coordinates calculated by a founder-level human. Fire on my mark. Silence on the channel. Then, understood, Commander. Marcus sent the data stream, then triggered the fabrication systems. Deep in the station's industrial sectors, massive machinery designed to process asteroids and build starship hulls began operating far outside normal parameters. They generated a pulse of electromagnetic interference that swept through local space like a tidal wave. Every sensor in the Krell fleet went white with noise. No, Marcus said quietly. Fire, Vexith commanded. 3 orbital platforms, operating on backup power and guided by calculations that bordered on precognition, released their remaining munitions in perfect synchronization. Missiles threaded through point defense gaps that appeared and disappeared in microseconds. 17 projectiles hit the Krell command ship's communications spine in a 2-second window. The enemy flagship went dark. Get everyone to the evacuation ships. Vexith grabbed Marcus's shoulder. You too. Move. The evacuation pods launched in waves, small craft carrying families and wounded soldiers away from the dying station. Vexith stood in the command center watching them go, counting hulls, calculating capacity. They'd lost the station but saved the people. That was something. Marcus sat in the corner, exhausted and small again without the terminal interface to make him seem larger. Lieutenant Krall watched him with the wariness of someone who just realized the universe contained things they didn't understand. The Krell are reforming, Krall reported. We have maybe 5 minutes before they resume assault. How many pods are still docked? 17. Mostly damaged ones we were saving for emergency use. Vexith did the math. Not enough space for everyone remaining. Not enough time to make multiple trips. The command crew would have to stay behind to ensure the last civilians got clear. Start loading wounded and non-essential personnel. Security teams maintain perimeter. Marcus stood up. You're planning to die here. I'm planning to buy time for others to live. That's stupid. That's command. Vexith turned to face him. You did your part. You saved thousands of lives. Now let us do ours. I can do more. Marcus moved to the primary tactical console. This station has one functional reactor left. If I overload it at exactly the right moment, I can create a gravity pulse that'll disable every Krell ship within 500 kilometers. That pulse would also tear this station apart. Yeah, but we're abandoning it anyway, right? Better to make it count. Krall stepped forward. Kid, what you're describing would require precision timing within microseconds. And you need to be here to trigger it manually because the automation isn't fast enough. I know. Vexith felt cold realization settle over her. You're talking about staying behind. I'm talking about making sure everyone gets out. Marcus's voice was calm. You've got 17 damaged pods and maybe 40 people left to evacuate. I can rig the reactor to blow exactly 3 minutes after the last pod clears minimum safe distance. That gives the Krell time to close in, thinking they've won, then takes them out before they can pursue. Absolutely not. Vexith's voice carried the weight of absolute command. I'm not sacrificing a child to save my crew. Then everyone dies. Marcus pulled up the tactical projection. Look at their formation. They're boxing you in. Even if you load everyone in the next 3 minutes, the Krell will run down the pods before they can jump to FTL. You need those ships disabled or everyone you just saved dies anyway. The projection didn't lie. Vexith saw the inevitable conclusion forming in cold mathematics and strategic reality. The Krell were moving into intercept positions. Damaged evacuation pods couldn't outrun military vessels. Without something to stop the pursuit, the evacuation was just delaying the inevitable. There has to be another way. If there is, I don't see it. Marcus looked at her with those two old eyes. And I'm founder level, remember? If I can't find another solution, it probably doesn't exist. Krall's mandibles clicked nervously. Commander, we have to decide. The Krell will be in firing range in 2 minutes. Vexith had made difficult decisions before. Sent soldiers into battles they wouldn't return from. Calculated acceptable losses. This was different. This was asking a child to die alone on a burning station, while everyone else ran to safety. No. She moved to the tactical console and started working. I'll stay behind. You'll go with the last pod. You can't trigger the reactor properly. The timing needs to be perfect or it won't work. Then teach me. There's not enough time. And even if there was, you don't think fast enough. No offense, but your reaction speeds are about 40% slower than mine. This requires precision you can't achieve. Marcus, I'm not being brave or stupid. Marcus met her gaze steadily. I'm doing math. This is the equation. 1 life trades for 12,000. 1 kid nobody will miss against families and soldiers and people who matter. You matter. Not enough. He pulled up the reactor interface. My parents are dead. Earth will hunt me forever once they know what I am. The Krell would probably dissect me if they caught me to figure out how human brains can do what mine does. This way, at least I'm useful. At least it means something. Vexith felt something break inside her chest. She'd commanded for 40 years. Lost friends and soldiers and sometimes pieces of her own soul. But she never felt as helpless as she did watching this 8-year-old child calmly explain why he had to die. Lieutenant, get everyone to the pods. Now. Commander, that's an order. Krall hesitated, then saluted and left. The command center emptied in 90 seconds, leaving only Vexith and Marcus among the failing systems and emergency lighting. You should go too, Marcus said quietly. I'm not leaving you alone. I'll be fine. You're 8 years old. I'm founder level. A small smile crossed his face. I've been alone since I understood what that meant. This isn't different. Vexith crouched down to his eye level. Marcus-chan, I served 40 years in the Royal Guard. I commanded fleets and stations. Won battles and lost friends. And in all that time, I never met anyone braver than you. I'm not brave. I'm just out of options. Sometimes that's the same thing. She placed one clawed hand gently on his shoulder. When this is over, when people tell the story of how this station was saved, I'll make sure they remember your name. That's a promise. Thank you? Marcus's voice was very small. Will you tell me when it's time? When the last pod is clear? I will. Vexa stood and moved toward the door, then stopped. Marcus, if there's anything you want to say, anything you want remembered, tell Earth I'm sorry for being what I am. Tell them I tried to hide. Tell them it wasn't my parents' fault. He turned back to the console. And tell the Krell that humans don't forget. Vexith carried those words with her as she ran for the last evacuation pod. The pod's acceleration pressed Vexith into her seat as they cleared the station's gravity well. Through the viewport, she watched the dying starbase hang against the black, surrounded by Krell vessels moving in for the kill. Somewhere inside that wreckage, a child waited alone. All pods clear and achieving minimum safe distance, Krall reported from the pilot's seat. Krell fleet is pursuing. 45 seconds to weapons range. Vexith activated her comm. Marcus, can you hear me? Static crackled, then his voice came through, small and clear. I hear you. All pods are clear. You can trigger the sequence. Okay. A pause. Commander Vexith? Thank you for not lying to me. For treating me like I understood. You understood better than any of us. Maybe. I'm starting the sequence now. Reactor overload in 10 seconds. Through the viewport, Vexith saw the Krell fleet closing in, hundreds of ships converging on the station like predators on wounded prey. They thought they'd won. They didn't know they were flying into a trap set by a human child who could see patterns others couldn't. Marcus, I need you to know something. What you're doing matters. You matter. Don't ever think otherwise. I won't. His voice was steady. 5 seconds. Commander, if you ever meet other humans like me, tell them it's okay to be different. Tell them we're not monsters. You're not. You never were. 2 seconds. I hope everyone makes it home safe. The station's reactor went critical in a cascade failure that Marcus had orchestrated down to the microsecond. The explosion wasn't just destructive, it was surgical. The gravity pulse rippled outward in a sphere of distorted spacetime that caught the Krell fleet at the perfect moment. Warships designed to withstand direct weapon impacts twisted like paper in a hurricane. Hulls buckled. Engines tore free. Entire vessels crumpled inward as localized gravity exceeded what their structural integrity could withstand. 200 Krell ships died in 8 seconds. The evacuation pods, positioned just outside the pulse radius by calculations that had accounted for every variable, rode the shockwave to jump-capable velocity. One by one, they vanished into faster-than-light transit, carrying 12,000 lives to safety. Vexith watched the station's fragments scatter across space and felt the weight of a debt she could never repay. The inquiry board convened 3 weeks later on the Royal Guard flagship Corona's Pride. Admiral Thexel presided, flanked by representatives from 6 different species councils. Vexus stood at attention, her formal uniform pristine, her service record displayed on screens behind her. "Commander Vexith," the Admiral began, "you are here to account for decisions made during the Krell assault on Station Meridian. Specifically, your authorization of a founder-level human to access military systems and your decision to abandon defensive position." "I understand, sir. The human child Marcus Chen died when the station's reactor overload destroyed both the installation and the attacking Krell fleet. Records indicate you gave him the authorization codes that made this possible." The Admiral's eyes were hard. "Explain your reasoning." Vexith had prepared for this moment. She'd expected anger, accusations, possibly court-martial. But she hadn't prepared for what she actually felt standing there. Pride. "The child presented a tactical option that saved 12,000 lives at the cost of one. I authorized his access because he was the only person who could execute that option successfully. He was 8 years old. He was founder level. That designation exists because humans like him operate beyond conventional limitations. He proved it by doing what no one else could." A Kalesh counselor leaned forward. "Commander, you must understand how this appears. A military officer authorizing a human child to die. There are those who say you sacrificed him to avoid losing your command crew. Then, those people are wrong." Vexith's voice remained steady. Marcus Chen volunteered. "He understood the tactical situation better than anyone in my command. He made a choice to save lives, and I honored that choice because denying it would have killed everyone. Including yourself." "Yes, sir." "You were willing to die with your crew?" "I was willing to die instead of him. He wouldn't allow it. He was faster, smarter, and ultimately right about what needed to happen." The Admiral studied her for a long moment. "The Krell Dominion has lodged a formal protest. They claim we used a weapon of mass destruction against their fleet. That a human child capable of orchestrating such devastation represents a violation of multiple treaty accords. Marcus Chen wasn't a weapon. He was a scared kid trying to save his neighbors. Yet he killed 200 ships worth of Krell warriors." "Yes, sir. He did." Vexith met the Admiral's gaze. "And if he hadn't, those same warriors would have slaughtered 12,000 civilians. I stand by my decision to authorize his access. I stand by his choice to sacrifice himself. And I will answer any charges the Council wishes to bring." Silence filled the chamber. Outside the viewports, stars burned cold and distant. "There will be no charges," Admiral Thexal said finally. "After reviewing the tactical data and witness testimony, this board finds your actions were consistent with military necessity and command discretion. The human's designation as founder level was properly recorded. His sacrifice was voluntary and effective." Vexith felt her posture relax slightly. "However," the Admiral continued, "this incident has raised questions about human integration in frontier territories. Earth has requested extradition of Marcus Chen's remains for study. They claim he may have been illegally concealed by his parents to avoid proper classification. His remains were destroyed in the reactor overload." "Convenient." "It's the truth, sir." "I'm sure it is." The Admiral's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "The Council has also voted to establish a memorial on the new Station Meridian once construction is complete. It will bear the names of all those lost in the attack, including Marcus Chen. His sacrifice will be remembered." "Thank you, sir." "You're dismissed, Commander. Return to your duties." Vexa saluted and turned to leave. "Commander?" The Admiral's voice stopped her at the door. "Off the record, I'm glad there are still officers who understand that rank doesn't always equal wisdom. That child saved more lives in 10 minutes than most soldiers save in entire careers. Don't forget that when the nightmares come." "I won't, sir." 6 months later, Vexa stood in the observation deck of the new Station Meridian, watching construction crews finish the Memorial Plaza. The station had been rebuilt on the same coordinates, a deliberate message to the Krell that humans and their allies didn't abandon their positions. The memorial itself was a simple crystal column 30 meters high, names etched in light that cycled slowly through the list of casualties. Most were military personnel. A few dozen were civilians who hadn't made it to the shelters in time. One name appeared near the bottom, no different in size or prominence than the others: Marcus Chen, age 8, civilian. Underneath, by Vexith's specific order, were words Marcus had spoken in those final moments. "Tell them we're not monsters." She stood there for a long time, remembering a child who'd understood the universe too well and died to save people who would never fully understand what he'd been capable of becoming. Footsteps approached behind her. She turned to find Lieutenant Crawl, now promoted to her second-in-command, carrying a data tablet. "Commander, we've received an unusual message. It came through the civilian communication network, tagged with Marcus Chan's old identification codes." Vexith's pulse quickened. "That's impossible. Those codes should have been purged when he died." "Should have been, yes." Crawl handed her the tablet. "But someone's using them. And they're asking for you specifically." The message was brief, text only, routed through so many relay systems that tracing the origin would be impossible. "Commander Vexith, thank you for the memorial. The words matter more than you know. Earth sent agents to recover my remains and found nothing. They think I'm dead. That's good. Better for everyone. I can't tell you how I survived because people are watching this message. But I wanted you to know that your promise meant something. You told me I mattered, and you made sure people remembered my name. I won't forget that. If you ever need help, and I mean really need help, broadcast a message with the phrase, 'Founders keep their promises,' on open civilian channels. I'll find it. I'll come. Until then, I'm going to try to have the normal life my parents wanted for me. It probably won't work, but I have to try. Take care of yourself, Commander. The galaxy needs people like you." Vexith read the message 3 times, her mind racing. Marcus was alive. Somehow, he'd survived the reactor overload or never been there when it detonated. He'd faked his death, let everyone believe he'd sacrificed himself, and disappeared into the billions of anonymous souls scattered across human space. "What should we do?" Crawl asked quietly. "Nothing." Vexith deleted the message and handed back the tablet. "If anyone asks, we never received this. Marcus Chin died a hero saving Station Meridian. That's the truth as far as anyone needs to know. And if he really does contact us again, then we help him. Whatever he needs." She turned back to the memorial, watching Marcus's name scroll past in light. "He bought 12,000 people their lives. We owe him his." Crawl nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, Commander, I think you made the right call that day. I didn't understand it at the time, but I do now. Thank you, Lieutenant." Alone again, Vexith touched the crystal memorial gently, her claws silent against the smooth surface. "Stay safe, Marcus," she whispered to the empty plaza. "Stay hidden. And if you're listening somehow, know that you were right. You're not a monster. You never were. You're something better. Something that gives the rest of us hope that humans might be the best thing that ever happened to this galaxy." The memorial cycled through its list of names again. Marcus Chin appeared and disappeared in light, remembered and honored and mourned by people who would never know the truth. Somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a child who could break civilizations if he chose was learning to be normal, to be human, to be what his parents had wanted him to be all along. And in the depths of Earth's intelligence networks, analysts were closing the file on founder-level designation Marcus Chin with a single notation: deceased. Threat neutralized. It would take them years to realize their mistake. By then, Marcus would be 15, enrolled in an ordinary school on an ordinary colony world, teaching himself to hide what he was behind the mask of mundane normalcy. But in the quiet moments when he thought no one was watching, he would remember a station commander who'd trusted him when no one else would. Who'd seen past the designation to the terrified child underneath. Who'd promised to remember his name, and kept that promise even when it meant challenging Earth's most powerful agencies. And he would remember the lesson she taught him that day, That power without compassion was just another kind of destruction, but that sacrifice with purpose could change everything. The galaxy turned. Stars burned. And somewhere in the dark between worlds, a child who should have been a weapon was learning to be human instead. That was the real victory. That was what Marcus Chen's sacrifice, both the real one and the imagined one, had bought. Hope.